So yeah, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for taking some time out of your day today to join us for the White Plains City School District Reopening Committee meeting. Today is the 15th of September, and we're approaching a full week of school right now, and we do have some updates. Fortunately, we don't have a great deal to discuss in terms of high-stakes decision-making, which hopefully that's a nice breath of fresh air for this particular committee. Considering everything that you've already been through. But we do have some things we'd like to report and some areas that we're focusing attention on as well. And of course, as always, questions, comments, concerns, recommendations are welcome. First and foremost, today kicks off our month-long celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. And I'd like you to join me and the Board of Education and all of our community members here in the White Plains City School District as we celebrate together the contributions of our Hispanic colleagues and community members, and certainly continue to reinforce in our classrooms how critical it is that we learn as much as we possibly can about everybody in our community. We are also on the eve of Yom Kippur, and for those who are celebrating, I'd like to wish them, of course, an easy fast. And for those who are not celebrating, remember, you're off tomorrow. So enjoy your day as well. So just as an update, and we had a great Board of Education meeting. I'd like to thank our trustees who are here with us as always this morning, and also for their support. It was great to welcome our children back. As many of you already know, we've had discussions prior to this meeting, and we are back, and our children are in our facilities, in our classrooms, on our fields, and that's really just a fantastic thing. Not without challenges, and we knew that going in. We knew that we were going to continue to have to deal with COVID-19. We also knew that we were going to be dealing with the more traditional communicable illnesses, as well as the normal challenges that we see each year at the beginning of the school year. What's interesting about this year, as opposed to the beginning of this year, as opposed to the beginning of last year, in the last 19 months, is, and I'm happy to report, that over the last several days, really, we've been contending with much more typical challenges, which, challenges are challenges, but it's nice to have a departure from global pandemic challenges a bit. I do need to just draw attention and heap a big load of thanks and praise to our support staff members, our faculty members, our administrators, really doing a great job in welcoming our children back. Reintegrating them into the structures and the systems that we have in place in our schools. That process is still taking place with regard to talking about expectations and classroom communities and all of those things, many myriad things that take place from pre-K all the way to 12th grade. And everyone's doing a really just a tremendous job in working together. So I do want to just offer my appreciation there as well. Athletics kicked off. We had a beautiful evening last Friday night for the home opener football game. We've had already some really great wins for our athletic teams, but we've also experienced some challenges with regard to COVID-19. Yesterday, we identified a player who unfortunately tested positive for COVID-19, and because of the nature of athletic competitions and the proximity, definitely more students needed to be quarantined and isolated than we have seen in school facilities. We've also had cases where students have come to us, and this is really important, especially for folks who are watching this video later, who have come to us with outstanding tests in the home. So what does that mean? It means somebody took a test for COVID-19, they're awaiting the results, they're unvaccinated and coming to school. That poses a major challenge for us, and we need to continue to remind everyone to be mindful. Number one, don't come to school if you're not feeling well. You need to make sure that you're well, because if you take that chance, you definitely run the risk of creating a disruption in our classrooms and on our teams and in our facilities. If you have an outstanding test and you're unvaccinated, you also want to wait until you know the results of that test, so that you don't inadvertently expose and potentially disrupt the school community. Now, we know nobody does these things on purpose, but we all have to be mindful and remember that the actions that we take even if we don't mean to, could have negative repercussions and disruptions down the chain. So that's really important. We're going to keep reminding everybody about that. You get that Sunday evening email reminding you sort of to take stock of your physical wellness so that we're all looking after each other. We've done a great job with that in White Plains over the last 19 months or so. We want to keep that up. In our facilities, and I know folks will talk more on the committee, we'll talk more about this, but we are monitoring and making adjustments where needed to do things like maintain as best as possible spacing in the hallways, trying to keep distance among all of our school community members to the best extent that we possibly can. This is, as you know, something we're looking at, making changes, looking at it again, analyzing, talking with the folks who are doing and working in these situations and making adjustments as we go. It's one thing theoretically to have 2,100 children in a building. It's a total number, different thing to actually have 2,100 children in a building, and then trying to make sure that you're keeping everybody as distant as possible. Vaccination for folks who are willing and able to be vaccinated remains one of the best prophylactic measures we can take to ensure that if you do contract COVID-19, potentially the effects of the illness are reduced dramatically, and also helping to stem the spread of illness. And we all know that at this stage, only 12 and up are eligible for vaccination. We are going to be offering pop-up vaccination opportunities both at the high school and at Highlands. Right now, Maggie and I were talking about this morning with Mr. Martinez, Ms. Morel, and we're looking hopefully in October. We do think that a number of our students will likely, and community members, will likely take advantage either in getting vaccinated for the first time or potentially, if need be, in receiving booster, because by that point in time, many of our community members will be eligible and looking forward to receiving a booster. So we can do that at school. We're going to want to offer that opportunity for everybody at school, and more information will be coming there. We're also coordinating with the County of Westchester and Mount Sinai to offer opt-in screening testing for all members of our community. We will be conducting testing at about 20% of the overall population weekly. So folks will have the opportunity in our community to sign up for screening testing. And these tests, again, are not the Buy Next Now cards. They're a less invasive saliva PCR test. You still receive the rapid response. And essentially you get a little vial, you fill it up appropriately, you bring it into school, you drop it in the box, and the laboratory folks will process it, and you'll get your results in, I think it's about 48 hours or so. So that will be ramping up toward the end of September, the beginning of October. We're working through logistics of that right now. That is supported and paid for through the funding received at the county level, which is a great opportunity for our school district. We're also receiving additional masks from the county. They're going to be distributing those in the next couple of weeks. And we continue to meet with our county executive as well as the Department of Health representatives every Monday to look at what the landscape looks like. This week's report was pretty good. Over the last several weeks, there has been a flattening of increases of identified COVID-19 in Westchester County. It's also reported, as some of you may have heard, that we're up over 80% of eligible individuals in Westchester County who have taken advantage of being vaccinated. It's a very, very high percentage. So the hope, of course, while anything can change, the hope is that we continue to see sort of a level playing field with regard to COVID-19 identification, particularly now as school districts are back in full swing. But we'll keep updating you on that as we get those numbers. All right, that was a lot from me. I do want to make sure that I start off just by updates from our cabinet members. Mr. Pepper, I'll start with you. Morning, Scott.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Ricca. So as Dr. Ricca indicated, there has been a significant difference this year compared to last year in terms of the drop-off in the number of employees who are looking for accommodations or in need of accommodations. So that's a real positive sign. I'm very grateful for that. And also in terms of benefits that are available to employees, As we all know, the FFCRA benefits are no longer available. However, New York State does offer the COVID-19 benefits for those employees who are either under an order of quarantine or who test positive for COVID-19. Under those two conditions, there are benefits available through the New York State where you can use COVID leave allowances, and they're not deducted from your personal sick pay. So, we're just we're doing well and hoping everybody stays healthy.
Thanks, Scott. Any questions for Human Resources? Great. Dr. Hand, morning.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to the 5th day of school. So on the first day of school, I checked in with the schools and stopped in the classrooms of many teachers to make sure that they had all their instruction materials and everything was set, and it was. So I was delighted that they had all the tools that they needed. I've been working with the principals on the open houses and on setting up the extended day programs. We'll be putting our postings up and getting the teachers board approved so that we could start the extended day programs in either mid-October or early November. I think that's what our hope is. On the secondary level, mid-October, and the elementary level, I think we have it set that, the plan is to start in early November. And I think that, I'd like to go to the principals so that they can share a little bit about their reopening experiences, but that's pretty much where we are in terms of supporting our quarantine students. Right now, we are supporting them asynchronously, whether it be through Seesaw and Schoology. And of course, they can always reach out to their teachers, via email, and make sure that they're staying on target during the time that they may be quarantined, or even for any of our sick children, that would be the same. And then as soon as we can, we will provide after school support for those children through that quarantine instructional continuity program. And that's what we need to post and have teachers apply to. So if any teachers are watching this right now or in the future, make sure that you look out for that posting because we really need your support. Thank you. And I'm going to go over to Emily next.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So happy 5th day of school. We have at the high school been busy welcoming our Tigers back. It was great last week to see so many of our students. And in fact, for me, it was actually the first time I had a chance to see the school in full swing. And whoa, was that an eye opener for me, but in a great way. So we're really excited. We're working closely with our building level reopening team to make tweaks. We did communicate with our families earlier this week to know that we are pivoting our lunch. We recognize that our lunch situation with the 2 periods was just not enough space. There was a little bit of congestion in those cafeterias. So we're pivoting back to the traditional lunch model where all students are off at the same time. This will allow us to have more space available to them for lunch, throughout our building. So we're really excited about that. Rena, I'm looking at you, and Lola. Hopefully you guys are looking forward to that today as our first day with our unit lunch. Get a chance to connect with all your friends, and certainly opportunity to meet with teachers, which was a bit of a challenge in the past, right? Because teachers sometimes were teaching if you were in a separate lunch. So there's lots of positives that are going to come from this. We're obviously going to continue to monitor this. One thing I stated in the communication to our families is that it's, while we are moving out of the pandemic, it's still a fluid situation. So we're going to, make adjustments as we continue to see where there are some areas of concern. So I appreciate the feedback we've gotten from some family members, some parents, and so we really appreciate that. But we are moving along, pretty nicely. Today, we actually made another pivot. We were supposed to do a couple of different grade level assemblies. We're going to be working with the team to restructure those a little bit better. So we'll be making some changes in-house for that, so we can still get a chance to meet with our Tigers to make sure that they have the information they need in order to be successful this year. But yes.
This is Cheryl. So I just wanted to mention a couple of things that came up at the school board meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 representatives from the high school, student representatives. We're very excited about that. And so one of the questions that had come up was about the 1 lunch period, and why that actually allowed for more space than 2 lunch periods. And it was made very clear that in fact, we were able to utilize more spaces in the building and spread kids out more, even though it might seem counterintuitive. by
Right.
having one lunch period. So I just wanted to mention that. So that's, out there in the public. The other thing that was also mentioned was that the hallways at certain times seem very crowded. And so I didn't know whether that's being looked at as well.
So thank you for that, Cheryl. So a couple of responses to that. So, our building is a bit unique. So while I know I have conversations all the time with Mr. Spatafor in terms of how Highlands is a different layout. So therefore, the way the hallways are set up during, there is a little bit easier. Ours has different extensions, right, in terms of north house, south house. So creating one directional hallways and things of that nature is very difficult to do in our high school. I think the other challenge is, we're 2,100 plus students. And while, even with the different, expectations and mitigations, it is still a lot of movement that happens in between periods. So we are obviously looking at that and continuing to look at that, but making those kind of adjustments, it might not be applicable to our building, that it might work in another building. Same thing with, for example, there are certain stairwells, right? Same thing. It's a bit of a challenge. So, we are looking at, these things, but I think the other challenge is, when we tried staggered dismissal, for example, last year, the challenge is, who goes and what time do they go? We tried the even and odd, rooms, and it was really still very confusing. So we just felt that we have the 5 minutes, and our teachers are very accommodating for students if they're a minute late, it's totally fine. So we'll continue to encourage our students to take their time, just like we'll tell them today for lunch. It's important for them to realize they don't all have to rush to get to the lunch line first. They have a full 41 minutes to get there. So again, the key is going to be to communicate with our students. And one thing I'll say that I'm really excited about is that, one of the things that I was pushing for is that our students now are going to get emails from us, and we have a better email system. So they're going to be getting a lot more communications directly from us through a direct email. Rena, hopefully, and Lola, you got my email from me this morning. So, so those are the kind of things that we're doing to improve that communication, so we can make sure, our students are aware of some of the changes, in real time. So that I think will also help with some of those messages. And obviously, continuously, we need to reinforce the expectations, right? Our kids are great, but sometimes they need that reminder, hey, pull up that mask a little bit higher, keep that space between each other. And it's just going to be an ongoing thing that we'll do throughout the year. They're teenagers, and we're here to support them. And that's the approach that we take. When it comes to kind of reinforcing some of these expectations. But thank you for that feedback. And in fact, I spoke to Tiago, who was one of the representatives, the following day, and we talked about that. And I'm meeting with the student government the next week, so there'll be an opportunity to also get additional feedback that way.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. I do see Mrs. Eller has her hand up as well. Good morning, Rosemary.
Good morning. Just a quick question. I hear that you mentioned just now assemblies, and I imagine, Emily, that would be something, I guess, I don't know how we could do it, or how you can do it, or how you plan to do it in the high school. I guess really anywhere gathering so many students, and I'm sure you have a plan, but I'm happy that that's being thought of, because that's an important mitigation.
So absolutely, Rosemary. And one of the things that we're looking at is, we want to there's still value in assemblies, right? So we just have to be smarter about the number. So if it's a grade level, we're going to look at splitting them, right? So it might take a couple more periods to do an assembly, or we might look at utilizing some of the technology tools we have, available to us for having, communicating with our students in our classrooms, and directly communicating with them through, whether it's a Zoom for that specific, message that we need to send out to them. So we are absolutely looking at differently. That's, one of the things that we, as we're trying to get into the swing of things, where we might realize, at first it might look great, and then we have to pivot and say, let's not bring, an entire grade together. Let's figure out better ways to do it. So that's the name of the game, and I appreciate our community's flexibility. They're probably going to get more emails from me over the next few weeks and month or so, as we continue to flush things out. But I think that we're great. We're a big school that has unique challenges that some of my colleagues in other districts don't have. So I always have to look at it differently.
Yeah. Thank you. And you know what, since assemblies do involve that crowd, and would be good if the best practices are shared across the board. I think that that's how we're going to grow in our mitigation and safety. So thank you so much for that.
And if I can just add, I was at the MAS PTA meeting last night. And so the PTAs are also worrying about, sort of programs and assemblies and things of that nature. And so I think across the school district, everybody is looking at this very, very carefully and thinking about programs that might target a particular classroom or a smaller group of students, at any given time.
Yeah, and the great news is that we're going to be doing them, and we're going to be looking to give those opportunities to our children within the framework of the health safety standards that we have in our buildings. So that's great. Thanks, Deb. Does anybody have any other questions for Emily? All right, Rena, have a great day. Rena had to go to class. Okay, perfect. Dr. Hand, do we have a?
Yeah, I think that Suzanne Lasser was going to share just from the middle school perspective, and then Laura, I don't see her right here on the screen, but she's back again.
I can share Laura. Unfortunately, Laura, Mrs. Mungeon had to run. She had a fire drill, and I know we have a fire drill taking place at Ridgeway in a minute, but I did ask Laura what she wanted me to share, and she shares that great start. Doesn't feel like it's only been 5 days. Students are adjusting nicely, happy to be back. Transportation is improving. Breakfast in the classroom has been a challenge. It does take longer to eat breakfast in the morning. So that really is the big challenge there, because you have to make sure you're ensuring 6 feet of distance when the children are taking their masks off in order not to trigger a contact trace if you have a positive case. It does take longer for breakfast consumption, but we are continuing to monitor that and look for ways to improve that efficiency. Sorry, Deb.
No, it's all right. I just want Suzanne to speak a little bit from Eastview.
So good morning. Eastview has had a really great start. It's amazing to see all of the students becoming familiar with our arrival routines, and in terms of making sure that we're having them stay socially distant. We do have 2 separate entrances, and we have locations that are for each one of the 5 teams. So students quickly learned which door to use, which location to report to. We are using 3 lunch periods this year, and we've our contact tracing set up using the QR code, similar to what had been done last year. I know what Highlands does as well. The students have really shown what they learned at their elementary schools and are putting the safe practices into use each and every day. In terms of lockers, so, as Dr. Ricker said, the small things that always happen at the beginning of the year, figuring out the combination to the lockers and which exit to use, which stairwell to use to exit the building. Those types of things seem to be the most challenging for our Tigers right now. And we feel really good about those concerns as opposed to any others. And we're, making sure that children are washing their hands as much as possible. And of course, using their sanitizing stations when they are going into the cafeteria, coming back in from recess, and as they enter each class, there's an opportunity as well. So we think we're off to a really strong start.
That's great. Thanks, Suzanne. And then just finally, Ron, did you have anything that you wanted to add from your technology perspective?
Good morning, everyone. All is going well. It's start of school is always an interesting time of year in the entire district as we welcome everybody back. All the technology needs to be where it generally needs to be at this place. We have a lot of help desk calls, but that's normal for this time of year. And we're getting to all the teachers at this point as soon as we can. But we are finding, this was a very, if I could say it, more typical start of school than we've had in quite a while. So we're actually pretty happy to see that. So all is as normal as can be.
That's great news. Thanks, Ron. All right, Dr. Ricker, back to you.
Hey, thanks. Ms. Cadet, did you want to give an update for Highlands?
Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing okay. So yeah, Highlands is off to a great start. Our kids are coming in and adjusting to our new routines. We're getting them in more quickly in the morning, which is great, taking temperatures. And I don't even know what else to report. They're doing a great job. That's it. We are starting to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month with like weekly or daily quotes or words of the day. And we're off to a great start.
Short
Thank
reports
you.
are always good. That's fantastic.
Okay, great. I'll work on being shorter next time.
No, it's all good. Thank you very, very much. Also, Deb, do we want to touch and remind everyone with regard to open house? And we are planning for back to school nights and open houses. But
Yes.
just for moms and dads. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said that I was working with the principals on open houses, and our open houses this year will be virtual, and we'll be working with the teachers. The teachers will have a mix of content and live Zoom interaction with their parents and families. And, we'll make sure that everybody is well prepared and that there's consistency to the best degree that we can of content being shared across grade levels or across sections of particular classes. And we also plan to have virtual parent-teacher conferences for our elementary students right now. They begin in early October. So I think it's like the first week in October and the second week of October, but we're going to maintain a vertical, format for those as well, at least for now.
Great. Thanks so much, Deb. Anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns for Dr. Hand? None. Ms. Algard, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. I just wanted to share a few things with regard to special education. Our services are up and running. It's wonderful to see the children. They've made an easy transition back into our buildings. And so we are really just thrilled that we can have students in front of us providing the services we know they need. If parents continue to have any concerns about their services that their students are receiving, I encourage you first to reach out to the building level, reach out to your assistant principal, special education teacher, general education teacher. They're really your first line of support. If in fact you require additional support, the main number for our special education office is 422-2037. You can reach Ms. LaQuente-Dorset. Ms. Pilarte is in charge of our special education services 6 through 12 this year. And it's likely you might have a new CSE chairperson as well, who will serve as your primary touch point in central office for special education supports and services. The first special education pupil services coffee talk will be September 28th. That will be held via Zoom, and that flyer will be going out next week. And we expect to continue to hold our committee on special education meetings via Zoom for this school year. It increased our parents' ability to participate and really will continue to keep people safe. With regard to pupil personnel services, the buildings have thought of all wonderful ways in which to connect students to students, students to adults, and adults to adults as we reopen. We continue to streamline our equity and social emotional learning services and supports throughout our buildings. We have opened with increased PPS support in our buildings, whether that's clerical or actual school psychologists. And so we recognize the need to focus on reentry for students, but also understand that social and emotional learning is a much broader topic than addressing mental health issues. So we continue to build citizens who will be contributing members of our society and focus on those five pillars of social and emotional learning, which are much broader than issues of mental health. And that is all I have today. And if there are no questions, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Ricca.
Thanks, Deb.
You're welcome.
Dr. Karataish, good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Ricca. Good morning, everyone. The operations team met on September 13th, and it is nice to see that we're dealing with, the typical startup of a traditional school year. Of course, transportation, we're working with the bus company to troubleshoot and to make sure we have on-time services. But one of the things that we are fortunate as compared to some of our neighboring school districts is thankfully We do have sufficient number of bus drivers to cover our routes. So that is an advantage that we do have. There's, the typical things of missed stops or, my bus stop got moved and, it used to be here. We're making sure that everyone's using the Z-Pass to help us know what students are on the buses, and also to help with making sure we understand what ridership is. I know at the first day of school, there was, some reports of some crowding on the high school buses, but Sergio and his team really, went back and analyzed all that and are making, whatever necessary adjustments that there needs to be. So that's always a continual work in progress, and we meet with bus company weekly to really, try to smooth out these issues. Safety and security, really in terms of arrival and dismissal, Jeremy reported that it's really similar to last year. It's not, even though we do know we have more folks traveling on the buses, that morning and PM time with drop off and pick up is similar. Facilities, certainly, the same challenges of working on all our projects across the district. IDA did, put a monkey wrench into things. But again, we fared much better than other neighboring districts. And we've been able to help out a neighboring district, who really needed some outdoor space. So we were able to work with them and utilizing one of our tents. And food service, the high school is a perfect example, of troubleshooting and really trying to resolve any of those issues. So food service will be utilizing kiosks in those different locations at the high school for the one lunch period to kind of facilitate the fact that folks don't have to go into, the lunchroom, and they can access food, whether it be at the athletic or gym side of things or the auditorium. So that should really help create efficiencies. And, and we keep, looking at the grab and go breakfast, and, we'll make modifications as we go. Our focus also is, making sure we have systems in place for allergies, and we will be kicking up and getting into place the point of sale system, hopefully by the end of the month, October, because that really helps facilitate, understanding child allergies and who's, really taking meals and so forth. And, again, meals are free for everyone, but it's helpful to track that. It helps provide other benefits to families at home in terms of food, as well as the district in terms of grant allocations and so forth. Health services, there's, the schools are doing, different things, but a combination of using the kiosks or hand temperatures in the morning. Although that, we understand that that's not necessary from the new regulations, I think that, it's another layer of mitigation that certainly helps see if we can, catch some issues that might be occurring with our youngsters. And then, Dr. Ricker mentioned the testing program that we're working on getting set up. And we did, and we're almost there with the district-wide copy center, duplication center. We hired our person. He's getting trained. We have the equipment. And I think we're just about ready to get the portal up, and that will be commencing. And again, that's for, things that are really complex, right? We're going to take a lesson learned from being more like, utilizing more electronic means to distribute our information instead of the print. We also, the high school, and I don't want to necessarily speak for Emily, but we will be looking at graduation, because the Westchester County Center is still a vaccination site and still has a hospital. So they are not booking any, graduations or events. So the high school committee, along with purchasing, will get together and really put out, kind of scope out what the needs are in order to do graduation for this coming year. And we'll probably be supporting additional water bottles because the water fountains have modifications. From the team, is there anything you want to add? Anything I missed? Any
Yeah,
questions?
bring up one item. So
Okay.
we're looking at Perel. They have a incentive program. They're going to give us free dispensers. And so we're looking at making that change. So we probably won't replace the 700-800 we have, but we'll probably replace a good portion of them, mostly in public areas.
Great, thanks, Frank. Thank you, Ann.
And if I could just say thank you to our high school and middle school nurses. They cleared over almost 900 student athletes before school started with our online registration. And that was not an easy task. And it was a ton of work where they came in over the summer to do that. And all of our kids were ready for sports before school started. And, you know, we were in there last night and early this morning doing contact tracing, cleaning up some of the COVID athletic related issues we had, but the nurses have been outstanding. So thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, any questions for Ann? Maggie, I know you and I already met a couple times today. Any updates for the committee or questions or comments?
No, I'm just wanted to say that we're contact tracing. We're being very careful and really investigating everything so we can make sure that we quarantine who we need to quarantine, but we keep as many of our children in school as we can. I think that it's going to be a fluid year where a lot of things are going to change throughout the year, but I think that we're out to having a great start. And I can't wait to have our vaccine clinics. I think that's going to be very helpful. And the testing is also going to be a great mitigation strategy. So I really urge everyone, please sign up and get tested, COVID tested. I think it's going to be a great thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. And I for folks who are watching later, I'll keep reiterating this. You're going to hear us saying all the time, when you see the opportunity to sign up for screening testing, sign your child up for screening testing, please consider taking that opportunity. That's going to be available for everybody within the school district, and also willing and able vaccination opportunities. The district, again, will have pop-up opportunities, but we can absolutely point folks in the right direction today if they are interested in being vaccinated and they are not vaccinated. If people have questions about vaccination, absolutely reach out to their physician. But we know, and what we're seeing already in terms of how contact tracing is working with the County Department of Health, we know that folks who are vaccinated really do bear much less of a disruptive chance of getting caught up in a contact trace, quarantine, or isolation scenario. So again, any questions about any of those things, you can reach out to Maggie, you can reach out to me, but definitely reach out to your healthcare provider. Thanks so much, Maggie. Okay, open general questions, comments, concerns, anything from the committee? Well, I just want to thank everybody again. It's a world of difference from where we were this time last year. As Maggie said, we do anticipate additional changes as we go through the school year, but I'm hoping and thinking that the additional changes will actually be back toward more typical health safety standards. Again, as we continue to fortify the community, we will keep meeting in our reopening committee meetings and sharing that with the community. We'll also at district level continue to communicate with our community, give regular updates, and I know everyone at our building levels are doing the same thing. So we want to make sure we maintain that over communication trajectory. And as always, if anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns, they can reach out. I know, Mrs. Eller, I always like to leave off with our board members and give you the floor.
Thank you, thank you. I just wanted to say a couple of things. During our operations meeting, I did, I do appreciate the work, but I know, and as you all know, how many calls that Maggie is fielding you know, everyone is very concerned, as are we. And I know that Maggie does spend time with each and every person that calls her. It's not a 10-minute call. It could be a 30-minute call. And she takes that call and she makes you feel like you're my focus. Let me take care of you. Maggie, you need to know that that is recognized. And in this forum, I wanted to do that. Also, of course, on behalf of the entire board, I am thanking everyone for everything that you're doing to keep our children safe. What I do encourage is for us to bring any approach, any mitigation measure that will help keep everyone safe. Let's discuss it, let's consider it, and let's share best practices. When we all move like that, we are even stronger. So I do appreciate any feedback from any member of the community. Please bring it and let's consider it, because we can never be too safe. Thank you all on behalf of the board. Thank you, Dr. Ricker.
Absolutely, thank you. And I apologize, I missed this quick question that was in the chat. I'll just give you the answer that I have. The question is, do you know the percentage of children in the district vaccinated who are eligible? We don't know the percentage of children who are vaccinated at the moment. What I can tell you for sure is that we do have, and Maggie will back me up here because we experienced it yesterday, we do have a pretty good percentage. And what's good, Joe? Well, I would say that many of our students, or a number of our students, took advantage, particularly our student athletes, took advantage of vaccination opportunities at the high school level. We should have a better handle on a percentage of vaccinated students in a couple of months as we continue on with this process, and we offer more pop-up here in the district. But for sure, we knew this last year too, that students were taking advantage of vaccination. So while I don't have an overall number of children, or an overall percentage of children 12 and up who have been vaccinated, 12 to 18 who have been vaccinated, I definitely can tell you that, having experience through contact trace, a number of them are. Mag, do you have anything else on that?
No, what I'm seeing, like when I'm quarantining a group, I can see in the high school, you know, that it would be about half of the kids vaccinated. And I think that's pretty good for a beginning. So we don't really have exact numbers yet, but we're working on it.
Yeah, and I know the state is, thanks Maggie, and I know the state is reconfiguring and formatting the dashboard, which will be up and available for community members to investigate probably within the next 2 weeks. The school districts are reporting all identified cases of COVID-19 to the county health department as normal, but the dashboard hasn't yet been brought up online. So that'll be up in the next couple of weeks as well. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful day again. For those celebrating the holiday tomorrow, our best, and for the rest, enjoy the day. And thanks so much to the reopening committee for your continued hard work and dedication. Have a good day.